But the minute you think you know everything, at that moment you know nothing. And so I was in India, and I was teaching a course on leadership in India, and I had gone to this university, and I spoke there. And after I left, I got back to the hotel, and I realized I didn't have my wallet. And so I called the hotel, and I said, "Can you please bring the card back? They have my wallet." And they said, "I'm sorry, sir, we don't have a card. That was a taxi we used." And so they tried calling the taxi company, nobody answered the phone. They tried again, and nobody answered the phone. And I became a little cynical. I went from hopeful to skeptical to cynical, and I started thinking the worst of people. And of course, they said, "Well, my wallet is gone." By midnight, they called and said, "We're still trying. He's not answering the phone," the taxi cab driver. But at 2 in the morning, they called and said he answered his phone. His phone was off. He's coming back to your hotel with your wallet. So I get dressed and I run downstairs, and a man meets me, and the bellman translates for me in India in the dialect. And I ask the man, "Well, and I get my wallet, and everything is in my wallet. Everything. My passport, my money, my credit cards, it's all there." And I reach into my wallet, and there's $70 US. I asked the man through a translator, "What do you make a month?" He says about 2,500 rupees, which at that time was about $70 US. So I reach out and I say, "Let me give this $70 to you. This is my way of saying thank you." And the man says, "No." I said, "No, I don't think you understand. I have 1 month's salary for you. I want to say thank you. Here's $70. And the man says to the translator, "No." And I said, "There must be a translation problem here. I'm talking about paying you. I'm talking about giving you a month's worth of your salary." One more time, he said, and this time he became a little visibly angry. He said, "I told you no. I didn't bring you your wallet because I wanted a reward. I brought you your wallet because it's your wallet." Now, this may not sound like an incredible story, but think what would have happened if I had lost my wallet in a taxi in New York City or a big city anywhere in the world. Think about what the chances of me getting my wallet back. Think about it and be honest with yourself now. This is a slum, so as they call it, in India. So I said to the man, "What can I do to be thankful to you? What can I do to say thank you?" He said, "The next time you're in India, come to my house and have tea. Be my friend." Whew. Sometimes when you give, you get. Sometimes whatever goes around comes around. And so you gain more by giving. You get more by building. You learn more by listening. We have a chance and an opportunity to change the world because nobody changes in good times. People only change in bad times. No one changes when they're comfortable. They change when they're uncomfortable. We have a chance now to change the world.
Like yesterday I did an hour, and it was, 92 or 93 degrees outside. It was hot, right? Like, but I didn't say like, "Hey, is this going to be enjoyable or not?" I said, "Look, this is what I do, and come hell or high water, I'm going to do it." Right. And it was enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable at first, but I pushed through that. It's like on the other side of that resistance is often that thing. And so I think that's the problem with people who are like, I'll just sort of go with the flow. I'll take it as it happens. That can work, but it's often on the other side of what you're afraid of that you experience really great things, and you have to have the power to push through that.
Your life would feel better and richer if you had a goal, you chase that goal, you accomplish some things, you would get this boost of confidence, you get this boost of self-esteem, like whatever it is that you're into doing. Maybe you're into drawing comic books, maybe you're into making pottery or sculptures, but find whatever the that is and pursue that instead of doing nothing. Like the people that are doing nothing, those are the real people. I mean, look, doing something might be as simple as like that Alex Honnold guy. He just climbs rocks, but he's world-class rock climber. It's something.
Turn your wounds into wisdom. You will be wounded many times in your life. You'll make mistakes. Some people will call them failures. But I have learned that failure is really God's way of saying, "Excuse me, you're moving in the wrong direction." It's just an experience. Just an experience. Just an experience. I remember being taken off the air in Baltimore, being told that I was no longer being fit for television and that I could not anchor the news because I used to go out on the stories. And my own truth was, even though I'm not a weeper, I would cry for the people in the stories, and which really wasn't very effective as a news reporter, to be covering a fire and crying because the people lost their house. And it wasn't until I was demoted as a on-air anchor woman and thrown into the talk show arena to get rid of me that I allowed my own truth to come through. And the first day I was on the air doing my first talk show back in 1978, it felt like breathing, which is what your true passion should feel like. It should be so natural to you. And so I took what had been a mistake, what had been perceived as a failure with my career as an anchor woman in the news business, and turned it into a talk show career that's done okay for me.
Don't let your mind become conditioned for mediocrity. Don't let that change who you really are. Sometimes people will try to put us in a box, tell us things like, you can't start that business, you don't have the resources, you'll never afford a nice place to live, never get well, never meet the right person. Because their thinking is limited, they'll try to put their limitations on you. You have to put your foot down and say, I refuse to be mediocre because people around me are mediocre. I refuse to be addicted, depressed, have low expectation. I know I'm a barrier breaker. I'm gonna set a new standard. It starts in our thinking. Nothing will change until you make up your mind you are not going to accept mediocrity.
First bit of advice came from Tyler Perry, the famous director, kind of movie producer, that sort of thing, right? About 2 years ago, I had the good fortune to interview him one-on-one in 3 different cities around the country, where he got to speak about his entrepreneurial story to a bunch of small business owners around the country. Tyler Perry's, he did his thing. He was homeless for a while, right? Now he's like the highest paid dude in Hollywood, right? Really fascinating story. So I'm interviewing him one-on-one. Start the Q&A. One woman raises her hand, stands up. She says, Mr. Perry, we have to always go through these different trials and tribulations as entrepreneurs. Like, what keeps you going, right? How do you get back up and just go, right? He said the most profound thing that I had ever heard. He said, the minute he realized that the trials that you go through, right, and the blessings you receive are the exact same thing, like that freed him as an entrepreneur, right? Like, just think about that for a second. Like, I kind of stopped the interview because I had to soak that up for a little bit, right? Like, every single kind of trial, tribulation, all that stuff that you go through, it's just a lesson, right? And that lesson is just an inherent blessing, right? So as entrepreneurs, like, this entrepreneur thing is hard, right? Like, at times it's amazing, at times it sucks, right? And I've been very blessed and fortunate to have really good opportunities, but it's very, very hard, right? And you don't want to stress yourself out unnecessarily. And what that lesson taught me was that I didn't have to be as stressed out, right? Like, I'm gonna go through these issues, they're just lessons, let me treat that as a blessing, we're gonna move, right? And a lot of folks look at me when I start this company and they're like, Tristan, you're way more calm than you should be. And it's like, yeah, because I fundamentally understand this lesson that I learned.
And I think that success is something that is earned and re-earned. I think that in life, you're climbing up that mountain and you want to take breaks strategically, but people think that you can climb up a mountain and just kind of stay there. Not really. I view it like it's like a muddy mountain. You climb up and you stay there, you start to slide down. And there's a number of reasons why that happens. I'll talk about them today. Does that mean you should never take a break? No. I'm gonna take a little time off when I do my Miami events this year. Cool, Of course I believe in taking a break. I think you should spend time with friends and take breaks. But I also believe that success is something that has to be earned and re-earned. The world is a dynamic place. The world is changing. If you're not changing along with it, you're probably being left behind.
Think about what's the holy grail between somebody taking action or not. It's one word: certainty. When somebody is absolutely certain, the common word is believe, right? But you can believe at a general level, or you can believe with certain. When you're absolutely certain that if I do this, it's gonna get that result, and that result's gonna change my life, you'll do it. When you think it absolutely is not gonna work, you're never gonna do it. the middle no man's land of maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, that's the piece that kills people, right? So if it's a must for you, you got to make it work.